Hey everybody, welcome to the next coding lesson. This is Unit 3, Lesson 6, and today we're going to be talking about random numbers. Random numbers are essential for video game design, and you're going to learn some new code today that has to do with random numbers. So let me go ahead and open up Lesson 6. Make sure, guys, you're keeping track of everything that you're doing. These should all be filled in green and the assessment should be purple by the time you are done. That's just if you complete the activities, that's what I look for. And then normally what I do is I go over here and I select your name from the list and I can look at all of the assignments that you've done. Okay, so one of the things that you need to be aware of that I put in the last assignment, you had to read it, was that there's nothing for you to submit on Google Classroom. Everything you're doing for our coding activities is done on code.org. So I keep track of everything on code.org. If you complete the assignment, whatever grade I give you, it's usually out of 100 for a lesson, I will put that score into Google Classroom. Now, if you didn't do the assignment, it'll just show up as missing. But there's nothing in Google Classroom for you to hit the turn in button for. So don't be worried about that. I'm going to be going to code.org. And if I happen to be going to code.org, I go there on a daily basis. If I see that you're not completing any assignments, you can expect to be contacted by me. The farther you fall behind in coding, the harder it is to get caught up because there's a lot that you have to learn. And everything that we do is based on the thing that we learned before. Okay, so the question of the day. How can we make our programs run or our programs behave differently each time they are run? Students are introduced to the random number block and how it can be used to create new behaviors in their programs. They then learn how to update variables during a program and use those skills to draw randomized images. Okay, so here's the new code we're going to be using. It's just random number and it is a block. So if we look at, let's see, let me open up this document here. I don't think I need to open this for you. So this is just talking about random numbers. So the random number block can be used to generate random numbers in your programs. The parameters set the minimum and maximum value that could be generated. You can use this block anywhere that you write a number. So here's what it looks like as a block. So this example is like a die, like dice, a single die. That'll generate a random number between 1 and 6. So every time the random number generator generates, it'll give you a number that's either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And we use that for drawing. So if you replace, like this example right here, it says you can use random number as a parameter in drawing commands to make random drawings. With the following commands, your program might generate different drawings each time it's run. So here's an example. We have our x and our y value. If we replace the x value with a random number from 0 to 400, every time we run the program, look at this circle is in a different spot across. But notice it never changes its y value because we put the y value as 200. So that doesn't change at all. But if we replace the x value and the y value, both with a random number, from 0 to 400, every time you run the program, the circle will appear someplace different on the entire screen. Okay, so that's what random number generators can do. They can change your program up every time you change something. Okay, let's go back to where we were. All right, so exploration. So random numbers. So you're going to notice up here in your toolbox is getting bigger. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger for you to see. So as we are learning new skills, everything that we learn remains in our toolbox. So these are all the ones that we've used so far. We haven't talked about using comments, but we will in the future. We now have a new section called math. So if this is our drawing section, where we're drawing rectangles and ellipses, and this is our math section, and this is where the random number generator is stored. Okay, so you have a new block in the math drawer called random number. If you make your drawings with random numbers, it will look a little bit different every time you run your program. You can learn about the block by hovering over it in the toolbox and choosing see examples. So if you do that, go back up to here, hover over it, and you can go to see examples right here. All right, so it's just going to kind of give you some examples of how a random number generator is used in a program. Okay, and it's not using blocks, it's using the code. Okay, so if you see this program right here, it's like randomly moving around on the screen, the pen, because it says move to, and then there's a random number generator here for the X and the Y value. Okay, so this is just an example of how it can be used. Okay. So this is what they want you to do. They want you to run the program several times to see how it works, and then change the numbers inside the random number generator and run the code a few times to see what happens. So we can see that the background here is going to be tomato colored. Okay. And we can see that we have an orange circle or ellipse. Now the orange ellipse, if I hit reset and run, watch what's happening to that orange ellipse. It's moving, but it's only moving in one specific area, okay? And it's only moving along this X line right here. Why? Because the X value is generating a random number between 0 and 400. So every time I run it, now the X value looks like it's about 250 something, but they don't tell you what the X value is. But it's just a random number, okay? Now, if you mess around with the numbers, and let's say you only want this circle to show up between the 200 and the 400, well, then if you change the 0 to 200, every time we run it now, this circle will only appear in that area. So let's have a look. And there it is. See, it won't go any further than the middle now. All right? But notice how the Y value is always the same. The Y value is always 200 because in our code, it's at 200. So that's how it works. So let's look at the skill building. All right, so we're going to use the same program that we just looked at. All right, and it says right now only the X coordinate is random, so it's only going to appear in a random spot this way across the X value. It says, but you can make the Y coordinate random too. So what they want you to do is they want you to go ahead and this Y coordinate to make it a random number as well. So how do you do that? It's really, really simple. So watch this. So we go back to math and we drag the random number, and you're going to notice when it turns yellow around the 200, when it turns yellow, that means that you can place it in that spot. Okay, so if I take it out again, show you again, there it is. All right, so now if we want that orange dot to appear randomly in different places on the screen, then we would change these numbers to match. So anywhere random number can appear, anywhere from 0 to 400. So now, and we're not going to change the size of the circle. So every time I run the program now, that circle will appear somewhere different. It's a random number generator. Okay, so the X and Y value are changing every time I run the program. Okay, it's like flipping a coin. Okay, except there's 400 different choices because we're going numbers from 0 to 400. Okay. So this one, and you're going to see this one a couple of times. This is the one that we saw before. It says variables can be assigned a random number too. So remember the program that we looked at in the last lesson? The variable I size was 27. It lets you save a single random value to use as many times as you want. So this is what they want you to do. They want you to assign a random number to the variable so that the i's change every time you run the program. So notice down here, whatever the I size is what it's going to be. So if we get rid of that definite value of 27, because that doesn't change, let's put a random number in there. So let's go random number in there. Now let's not make it any smaller than 10, but let's go all the way up to, I don't know, let's go up to 9, or let's go up to 100. So the I size now, if I hit the run, whoa, those are big. And notice how they're both the same size, because what it does is this I size, whatever random number it just chose, all of these are going to be the exact same. So let's reset it and run it again. So every time I run it, both i's are the exact same size because they're both using the I size variable, which is generating some random number. If I want to make the value smaller, it'll still change every time I run the program. So every time I hit run, it's got like 50 choices or 40 choices, and it chooses one of them. All right, so that's how you do that. Okay, so this one, I'm not going to tell you how to do this. It says these two flowers use a single variable to store their petal size, but the value stored in the variable changes in the middle of the program. Okay, so run the program several times to see how it works. Discuss the code with your partner, which you don't have. You just discuss it with yourself. Change the program so that the flowers have random petal sizes as in the image. So if I run the program, you're going to notice every time I run the program, the petal sizes change, or don't change, I should say. So this one, the petal sizes are 30, right there. And in this one, the petal sizes are 60. So the petal size changes. Okay, so it says change your program so that the flowers have random petal sizes like in the image. Okay. So you want them to both be different. So what could you do? Well, we see that the petal size here is a definite number. So what could I replace that 30 with to make it different? What could I replace this 60 with? If you've been paying attention, you should be able to figure that out. All right, so that's on you. Let's look at our practice. So we have modify the planets. This one here, guys, you're going to see a whole bunch of circles that are supposed to be planets. And let's put your knowledge to the test. So we have a background. We have our yellow, our salmon, our cyan, our lavender, our crimson, and our orchid-colored circles, ellipses. So we want to change their size. So here's something that you've never done before. So remember, an ellipse also has a width and a height. So notice there's no space here for them. So you'll see this little arrow. So you want to click the arrow once. And notice how that second value came up. So these are all going to be size 50 because that's the default size. So if, let's say, for example, I put in a 75 here. So this yellow ellipse is going to get bigger. Watch this. See how it's bigger? So what they want you to do in this one is they want you to make all of these planets go to random sizes. So you're going to have to hit this right arrow on all of these. And you're going to have to use your random number generator to change those sizes. Okay? So that's something that you can practice on your own. Random shape position. So right now in the program, each rectangle has its own random position. Can you make it so that the rectangles are always stacked on top of each other, but the entire stack is randomly positioned? So you can see that they are randomly positioned. So run the program, use the variable x position to draw the bottom two rectangles at the same x position as the pink one. Okay, so let's keep running the program. So we want them to always appear in the same position. So how do we do that? Well, you'll notice that one of these, if you look at this rectangle, these two are random numbers. This one says x position, and the variable says x position, and the x position is a random number. So how can you make it so that they all, every time they appear, they're always in the same position, all lined up? That's tricky. So I'm going to give you a chance to work on that on your own. Let's look at the assessment. This one, I love this one. This one requires you to pay attention and to look for patterns. Okay, so we want a rainbow snake to appear here, and we want to run the program. So if you run it, so right now we have 3 ellipses. You can see we've got red, orange, and yellow. every time I run the program, they shift just a little bit. Not much, just a little bit. They kind of, it's like a wiggling. So it's like a snake kind of wiggling. So here's the, here's what they want you to do. They want you to add the green, the blue, and the purple to this. And it should look the same. So if you look here, there's some patterns. So we see that the red ellipse, the X value is at 100. Right here. You can see the orange one is at 140, which is right here. You can see the yellow one is at 180, which is right here. Now there's a pattern there. So when you're putting the green one in, look for the pattern. So what number did I add to 100 to get 140? That's easy. What number did I add to 140 to get 180? It's the same number that you added. So you take that number and you add it to 180 to come up with your green X position. Notice how the random numbers are only generating between 190 and 210, which means it'll only kind of shift in this short amount of space here. The sizes are all the same. All right, so let's do the first one together. So I need my fill color. We don't have to worry about these spaces. Sometimes programmers will put spaces in there to help them out. So remember, this one's got to be green. So let's type in green. Oh, I don't think actually all caps does matter. But, so there's green, and we want to put our ellipse in here. Now, here's the trick. To get from 100 to 140, I had to add 40. To get from 140 to 180, I had to add 40. So to get from 180, I have to add 40 to 180. So 180, 190, 200, 210, 220. So this number should be 220. And that's going to keep it in line with everything else. The second number, that's where our random number generator comes in. So we need to go to our Math tab in the toolbox, drag this into the second spot, and obviously these are all the same. So we need to just keep the pattern going. Look for the patterns. Now, watch when I run the program. Ooh, we have a problem. So what's the problem? And every time I run it, it's going to be the same problem. It's because I didn't change the size. The default size came up as 400, and we want to change that to 50. So let's reset it and run it. And there's our green. Notice how they just kind of wiggle in that small little area between 190 and 210. All right? So the rest of this one is up to you. All right? Okay, so that is lesson 6, dealing with random numbers. So we've dealt with variables and random numbers this week. I will post the solution to this one at the end of the week, so that if you got stuck or you needed some help, you can go ahead and do that. Okay, good luck.